Hi students, welcome to lesson 39, Poverty, Causes, Consequences and Remedies. Introduction. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals acknowledges that eradicating poverty in all its forms and dimensions, including extreme poverty, is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. The first Sustainable Development Goal aims to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. Its 7 associated targets aim, among others, to eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women and children of all ages living in poverty, and implement nationally appropriate social protection systems and measures for all, including floors, and by 2030 achieve substantial coverage of the poor and the vulnerable. Objectives of this lesson. After completion of this lesson, you will be able to understand the concept of poverty. You will be able to explain the causes and consequences of poverty. Describe the various poverty alleviation programs. Let us now discuss about the concept of poverty. Poverty has been described as a situation of pronounced deprivation in well-being. Poor people are particularly vulnerable to adverse events outside their control. They are often not treated properly by the institutions of the state and society and excluded from voice and power in those institutions. The dimensions of poverty go far beyond inadequate income to poor health and nutrition, low education and skills, inadequate livelihoods, bad housing conditions, social exclusion and lack of participation. According to the definition by Planning Commission of India, poverty line is drawn with an intake of 2,400 calories in rural areas and 2,100 calories in urban areas. If a person is unable to get that much minimum level of calories, then he or she is considered as being below poverty line. The proportion of the world's population living below $1.9 a day has increased to 8.8% in 2020 from 8.2% in 2019, according to the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2020 released in July 2020 by UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. Lack of access to resources or assertlessness is a unifying characteristic of poverty in all its manifestations. The poor lack ownership of or access to assets such as land, water, forest, dwelling units, credit, literacy, longevity, voice and capital, both physical and social. In general, poverty can be defined as a situation when people are unable to satisfy the basic needs of life. The definition and methods of measuring poverty differs from country to country. Absolute and relative poverty are two terms used to measure this poverty level. Absolute poverty is used to describe a condition where an individual does not have the financial means to obtain commodities to sustain life. Relative poverty refers to the standard of living compared to economic standards of living within the same surroundings. Let us now also discuss about rural and urban poverty in India. The causes of rural poverty are manifold, including inadequate and ineffective implementation of poverty alleviation programs. The over-dependence on monsoon with non-availability of irrigation facilities often result in crop failure and low agricultural productivity, forcing farmers in debt traps. The rural communities tend to spend large percentage of annual earnings on social ceremonies like marriage, feast, etc. There has been increase in unemployment, creating poverty-like situations for many. Population is growing at an alarming rate. The caste system, which is still prevalent, is a major reason for rural poverty, for it keeps people locked in the endless cycle with less facilities and opportunities for the marginalized castes. The phenomenal increase in the city populations owing to push factors of migration is one of the main reasons for poverty in the urban areas of India. The issue of urban poverty in India can be best expressed with the term pseudo-urbanization. Pseudo-urbanization is a state when a city is unable to contain its population in terms of providing livelihood, housing and infrastructure. This is mainly due to the vast and continuous immigration of rural people into urban areas. Immigration creates a shortage of resources in the cities. Urban poverty in India and other third world countries has resulted in the formation of large slums and shanty towns. The main causes of urban poverty are predominantly due to impoverishment of rural peasantry that forces them to move out of villages to seek some subsistence living in the towns and cities. Let us now discuss about causes of poverty. Poverty is one of the biggest social issues in India. It affects a significant part of the Indian population. Rising population. India's population has steadily increased through the years. India population is equivalent to 17.7% of the total world population. Low productivity in agriculture. Agriculture is the main occupation of our country. A major reason for poverty is low productivity in the agriculture sector. The reason for low productivity is manifold. It is due to fragmented and subdivided landholdings, lack of capital, illiteracy about new technologies in farming, the use of traditional methods of cultivation, wastage during storage, etc. Underutilized resources. There is underemployment and disguised unemployment in the country, particularly in the farming sector. This has resulted in low agricultural output and also led to a dip in the standard of living. Low rate of economic development. Economic development has been low in India. There is a gap between the requirement and the availability of goods and services. Price rise is also an important factor in poverty. Price rise has been steady in the country and this has added to the economic burden the poor carry. Although a few people have benefited from this, the lower income groups have suffered because of it and are not even able to satisfy their basic minimum wants. Unemployment. Unemployment is another factor causing poverty in India. The ever increasing population has led to a higher number of job seekers. However, there is not enough expansion in opportunities to match this demand for employment. Shortage of capital and able entrepreneurship. The shortage of capital and entrepreneurship is making it harder to increase production. Apart from economic and commercial, there are also social and political factors leading to poverty in India. For instance, the laws of inheritance, caste system, etc. Further, the British colonization and rule over India for about 2 centuries have caused damaging harm to the nature of India's economy. In 2019, the Indian government stated that 6.7% of its population is below its official poverty limit. India has been ranked 102 out of 117 countries in terms of severity of hunger. India has been classified as a country with serious levels of hunger according to the 2019 Global Hunger Index. The Global Hunger Index calculates the levels of hunger and undernutrition worldwide. The 4 indicators for the index are undernourishment, child stunting, child wasting, that is low weight for height is a strong predictor of a mortality among children under 5, and child mortality. Let us now discuss about the consequences of poverty. Poverty is linked with negative conditions such as substandard housing, homelessness, inadequate nutrition and food insecurity, inadequate child care, lack of access to health care, unsafe neighborhoods and under-resourced schools that adversely impact our nation's children. Extreme poverty is not only a quelling condition, but it is also one of the world's biggest problems. The effects of poverty are severe. Poverty is a major cause of environmental degradation. The World Commission on Environment and Development, popularly known as Brundtland Commission, stated that poverty is a major cause and effect of global environmental problems. It is therefore futile to attempt to deal with environmental problems without a broader perspective that encompasses the factors underlying world poverty and international inequality. According to K.F. Jalal, Asian Development Bank's chief of the Environment Department, had observed, it is generally accepted that environmental degradation, rapid population growth and stagnant production are closely linked with the fast spread of acute poverty in many countries of Asia. Poverty remains major issue where population increases at rapid rate. Poverty in India is common, with the nation estimated to have a third of world's poor. Population growth rate is one of the major ground of poverty in India. This has adverse effect on level of illiteracy, poor health care facilities and lack of access to financial resources. High population growth affects the per capita income and makes per capita income even lower. It is predictable that population in India will reach 1.5 billion by 2026. But India's economy is not growing at the same rate. This leads to unemployment and people may become more poor. Poverty and social inequality are strongly connected. Social inequality originates from cultural ideas about the relative worth of different genders, races, ethnic groups and social classes. Recognized inequality works by placing individuals in dissimilar social categories at birth, often based on religious, ethnic or racial characteristics. Poverty and social inequality have direct and indirect impacts on the social, mental and physical health of an individual. It can be said that poverty and inequality are closely related. Poverty is a major obstruction in the economic growth and development of the country. It leads to high infant mortality rate due to inadequate medical facilities. Infants with low birth weight suffer from mental and physical disabilities. Fewer children are enrolled in schools as their parents cannot afford their education. Unemployment and extreme poverty lead to domestic violence. poverty leads to malnutrition and increase in hygiene and diet related diseases. Poverty creates poor health because it forces people to live in unhygienic environments that make them sick. The government has already set up number of primary health centers in almost every village in India, but health workers do not sincerely serve the rural patients. In most places, the health workers remain absent from their duties for several days. Poverty causes increased rate of homeless people and high rate of crimes. Let us now discuss about measuring poverty. In India, the most commonly used method to estimate poverty is through the measurement of income and consumption levels. A person is considered poor if his or her income level falls below a minimum level that fails to meet his or her basic needs. This minimum level is known as the poverty line. When the income or consumption of an individual or the household he or she belongs to fall below minimum level, then they are designated to be below poverty line. The poverty line calculation is now carried out by Niti Aayog, the successor to the erstwhile Planning Commission of India, through the calculation of the poverty line based on data collected by National Sample Survey Office NSSO. It was Dadabhai Naoroji who took concrete steps in identifying the poor in India. He formulated a poverty line that ranged from rupees 16 to rupees 35 per capita per year based on 1867-1868 prices of subsistence diet such as rice, flour, dal, mutton, vegetable, ghee, vegetable oil and salt. In 1938, the National Planning Committee devised a poverty line ranging from rupees 15 to rupees 20 per capita per month. It was based on a minimum standard of living where nutritional requirements were important. In 1944, the Bombay Plan suggested a poverty line of rupees 75 per capita per year. In post-independent India, estimation of poverty was done by several committees. For instance, based on the data from the National Sample Survey data, V.M. Dandekar and N. Rath made a systematic assessment of poverty in 1971. While the previous estimation had stressed on subsistence living or basic minimum needs as a criterion for the poverty line, V.M. Dandekar and N. Rath suggested that the poverty line's criteria must be based on the expenditure that would provide 20 to 50 calories per day both in rural and urban areas. The task force constituted by Planning Commission under the direction of Y.K. Alag in 1979 constructed a poverty line for rural and urban areas on the basis of nutritional requirements and related consumption expenditure. The estimates in the ensuing years would be adjusted taking into account the price level for inflation. The Lakdawala Committee in 1993 based their findings on the assumption that basket used to calculate Consumer Price Index and Industrial Workers CPI-IW and Consumer Price Index Agricultural Laborers that is CPI-AL reflected the consumption pattern of the poor. Tendulkar Committee in 2009 chaired by Suresh Tendulkar gave these recommendations. A shift away from calorie consumption based poverty estimation, a uniform poverty line basket across rural and urban India, and a change in the price adjustment procedure to correct spatial and temporal issues with price adjustment, and incorporation of private expenditure on health and education while estimating poverty. Rangarajan Committee in 2012 was set up in the backdrop of national outrage over the Planning Commission's suggested poverty line of rupees 22 a day for rural areas. However, the current official measures of poverty are based on the Tendulkar poverty line fixed at daily expenditure of rupees 27.2 in rural areas and rupees 33.3 in urban areas. However, it is criticized by many for being too low. Let us now discuss about poverty alleviation. Poverty alleviation programs aims to reduce the rate of poverty in the country by providing proper access to food, monetary help and basic essentials to the households and families belonging to the below poverty line. Poverty alleviation is the set of steps taken in an economic and humanitarian way for eradicating poverty from a country. Various programs and schemes under the Government of India were launched to eradicate poverty and for providing basic amenities to the poor households. Let us now discuss some of the poverty alleviation programs in India. The main objective of 5th and 6th 5-year plan, 5th 5-year plan 1974 to 1979 and 6th 5-year plan 1980 to 1985 was for removal of poverty. Integrated Rural Development Program IRDP was started in 1980-81 in all blocks of the country and continued as a major self-employment scheme till April 1st, 1999. Then it was restructured as Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana SDSY, which aimed at self-employment of the rural poor. The main objective of the IRD program was to evolve an operational integrated strategy for increasing production and productivity in agriculture and allied sectors based on better use of land, water and light. Simultaneously, it also focused on the resources and income development of vulnerable section of the population in the blocks of the country. IRDP has several allied programs like Training of Rural Youth for Self-Employment (TRISEM), Development of Women and Children in Rural Areas (DWACRA), Ganga Kalyan Yojana (GKY), Million Well Scheme MWS and supply of improved toolkits to rural artisans Sitara. Pradhan Mantri Gramin Awas Yojana 1985. The aim of this program was to create housing units for everyone along with providing 13 lakhs housing units to the rural areas. To provide loans at subsidized rates to the people and to augment wage employment opportunities to the households by providing employment on demand and through specific guaranteed wage employment every year. Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme NOAPS 1995. The purpose of this program was to provide pension to the senior citizens of India of 65 years or higher and living below the poverty line. It provided a monthly pension of rupees 200 for those aged between 60 and 79 years and rupees 500 for the people aged above 80 years. Pradhan Mantri Vaya Vandana Yojana PMVVY is a pension scheme announced by the Government of India exclusively for the senior citizens aged 60 years and above, which was available from 4th May 2017 to 31st March 2020. The scheme is now extended up to 31st March 2023 for a further period of 3 years beyond 31st March 2020. National Family Benefit Scheme NFBS 1995. The objective of this program was to provide a sum of rupees 20,000 to the beneficiary who will be the next head of the family after the death of its primary breadwinner. Jawahar Gram Samriddhi Yojana JGSY 1999. The goal of this program was developing the infrastructure of the rural areas, which included connecting roads, schools and hospitals, to provide sustained wage employment to the families belonging to the below poverty line. Annapurna Scheme 1999-2000. The target of this scheme was to provide 10 kgs of free food grains to the eligible senior citizens who are not registered under National Old Age Pension Scheme. Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Kaushal Yojana DDU-GKY. The Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Kaushal Yojana aims to skill rural youth who are poor and provide them with jobs having regular monthly wages or above the minimum wages. It is one of the clusters of initiatives of the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, that seeks to promote rural livelihoods. It is a part of National Rural Livelihood Mission NRLM, the Mission for Poverty Reduction called Ajivika. The scheme will benefit more than 55 million poor rural youth who are ready to be skilled by providing sustainable employment. This scheme derives importance from its potential to reduce poverty. It is also designed to be a major contributor to the Prime Minister's Make in India campaign. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana PMKY or Skill India. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana or Skill India was launched on July 16, 2015 to alleviate poverty. The ultimate aim is to upskill around 40 crores Indian youth. This government scheme for poor students boosts the initiative to find the new sectors for skill development. It is the flagship scheme of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship MSDE, implemented by National Skill Development Corporation. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana PMGKY. Under this scheme, the members of parliament can arrange a skill-oriented workshop. The needy people can pay a meager amount for attending it. It came into effect in 2016. It allows individuals to deposit money that has not been taxed. Under the scheme, 50% of the untaxed amount must be paid. The scheme was initially valid from December 2016 to March 2017, which was extended further till the end of November 2020. Ayushman Bharat Scheme. Ayushman Bharat Yojana or National Health Protection Scheme was launched on April 14, 2018 by central government to focus on the wellness of the low-income families and providing medical benefits to them. Under this scheme, around 10 crore low-income families will be offered an insurance cover of rupees 5 lakh every year and will undergo cashless treatment at all the government and private empanelled hospitals across the country for the secondary and most tertiary care procedures. Ayushman Bharat Yojana, also known as Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, is a scheme that aims to help economically vulnerable Indians who are in need of healthcare facilities. Schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and Housing for All by 2022 were developed to provide housing to the rural and urban poor. Startup India scheme is an important government scheme that was launched on 16th January 2016 with an aim to promote and support the startups in India by providing bank finances. The Stand Up India scheme 2016 aims at providing people belonging to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe or women of the country a loan between rupees 10 lakhs to rupees 1 crore based on their requirement. The aim is to promote entrepreneurship among them. Under the scheme, 1.25 lakh bank branches would each be expected to lend money every year to at least one Dalit or tribal entrepreneur and one woman entrepreneur in their service area. Apart from eradicating poverty in India, the poverty alleviation programs also took an initiative in providing employment opportunities to the household of the BPL categories. The Government of India developed the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, now it is a scheme, 2005, intending to provide a legal guarantee for 100 days of the employment to the adult members of any rural household in every financial year. Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana was initiated in 2014 to ensure financial inclusion by ensuring access to financial services in an affordable manner. The public distribution system PDS, which evolved as a system of management for food and distribution of food grains, plays a major role in poverty alleviation. This program is operated jointly by the central and the state government of India. The responsibilities include allocation of commodities such as rice, wheat, kerosene and sugar to the states and union territories, issue of ration cards for the people below the poverty line, identification of families living below the poverty line, management of food scarcity and distribution of food grains. PDS was later relaunched as Targeted Public Distribution System TPDS in June 1997 and is controlled by the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Government of India. TPDS plays a major role in implementation and identification of the poor for proper arrangement and delivery of food grains. Therefore, Targeted Public Distribution System under the Government of India plays the same role as the PDS but adds a special focus on people below the poverty line. The unemployment issue in India is considered as one of the major causes of poverty in India. The poverty rate of a country can be reduced with high economic growth and by reducing the unemployment problem. Various poverty alleviation programs are set up under the Government of India that aims to eradicate poverty by providing employment on demand and through specific guaranteed wage employment every year to the households living below the poverty line. Let us now summarize this lesson. In India, poverty is a major social problem since it is a situation when people are unable to satisfy the basic needs of life. The dimensions of poverty go far beyond inadequate income to poor health and nutrition, low education and skills, inadequate livelihoods, bad housing conditions, social exclusion and lack of participation. To address the problem of poverty, several poverty alleviation programs have been initiated in India.